The following program is sponsored by Friends of Life Outreach International.
I've overdosed on heroin 3 times. I've been arrested. I tried to commit suicide. But obviously God had a plan.
Maria Durso turned to drugs after suffering horrendous abuse and abandonment. Then she heard God.
And I don't know how I got to the front, but I felt like a million angels came and washed all this filth and rage off of me. And when I looked to my right, my boyfriend was kneeling next to me, sobbing, weeping.
Next.
Welcome to Life Today. I'm James Robinson, and my wife Betty are so glad to be sharing this time. We have a guest now. This is and you're not going to believe it. She's close to our age, but she actually listened to me through the 70s and maybe late 60s even in the Crusades and all the way into the 80s, where I'm living in stadiums and coliseums, huge crowds. Well, she remembers it well. And I said, well, you do know now, to remember all those days, you got to be kind of close to our age, up in your 70s. And she said, gotcha. And she is, of course. Maria Durso is absolutely a miracle of God. I mean, Brooklyn Tabernacle is a fabulous church. She and her husband pastored the first church that they started as a branch there, and it was also in Brooklyn. I think it was called Christ Tabernacle. But I want you to know that we're so thrilled to have Maria. I want to say this to you because you can get these on Amazon, or you can go and we'll give you Maria's website. But you can get the recent book, Ageless, and then From Your Head to Your Heart, which we're going to be talking about. So, Maria, normally we have a studio full of people and everybody starts clapping, and so at home they're all clapping. But we're just glad to have you on Life Today.
I am honored to be here. I really am, and I have watched you for many years. You have me buying wells, just so you know. And in New York, you don't get many Christian TV shows in the 70s, and you were one that we would watch.
We were actually on WOR, which at that time it actually was spread out into other cities too. So it's still a very major, powerful station. I think we're still there. But anyway, I'm glad that you watched us. Now I want us to talk about really, basically, you. The very fact that you were born is a miracle, because your mother was 5 months pregnant with you, and was giving birth and died in birth. I guess they had to do, a C-section?
Yes, so my mother, from the moment she got pregnant, she started to suffer from terrible headaches. This is 1950. There were no MRIs, no CAT scans. And the doctor said, well, it's just the pregnancy in the first trimester. They'll dissipate. But by the time my mother was 5 months pregnant, my father would come home. He would find her with a towel wrapped around her head, banging her head against the wall. And they rushed her to the hospital, and they found that she had an inoperable brain tumor. And she went into a coma. They cut me out, 5 months pregnant. I was 2.5 pounds. What are the odds in 1950 for a baby to survive?
Virtually impossible.
Yeah. And the day my mother died, my father basically died, not physically, but emotionally. And I was placed in the New York Foundling Hospital, where they put orphans. I have no name on my birth certificate. My name is Baby. Nobody named me because nobody ever thought I would live. I was a very, very sickly baby and didn't leave the hospital until I was 8 months old.
Wow. All right, you had some kind of journey. Take us on that journey, because you really got in a mess. I mean, you did not go the right direction. You were not where anybody would ever think God's going to show up. Tell us about that journey.
So, 8 months old, my father takes me home. This is 1950, no such thing as single-parent households. His best friend was a glass of scotch. He would look out the window. He would cry for my mother. My father owned a nightclub. My mother was a nightclub singer. So there was nothing about God in the family, so to speak. So at 2.5 years old, my father decides he's going to put me in a religious boarding school. And he feels in this place my needs are going to be met. Someone will have the wherewithal to give me 3 square meals a day. I'm going to bond with women. There were no women in my life. So I remember like it was yesterday, my father driving up this gravel road and stops in front of this huge convent. And the doors were like hundreds of feet high to me. And he takes me out of the car, and he takes out my little suitcase, and he bends down, and he says, "Maria, I'll come and see you when I can." And that was very few and far
How old were
between.
you?
I was 2.5.
Wow, wow.
And those doors opened, and everything my father thought would happen didn't happen. In this place, I was beaten. I'm left-handed. I was told I was a child of the devil. I was told, "You're a child of the devil, Maria. You're a child of the devil." I would be put in a tub of hot water to get the devil out of me. The little girls, they went home every weekend, but I didn't. So I was given a little glass of wine, and I would wake up in bed with someone that represented God. I would be woken up in the middle of the night, put in a dark stairway for no reason. The little girls would come back from being at home, and they would open their suitcase, and to me their suitcase smelled like love, and they would take out little cards from their mommy and daddy and little sachets, and they would put it on the dresser, because our world was a bed dresser. And I wasn't looking at the card, and I wasn't looking at the sachet. I was looking at the lipstick mark on their cheek.
Oh, wow.
Because that lipstick mark meant no one was going to give them a glass of wine or beat them. But the sentence that shaped my life was, "God didn't think you deserved a mother." God doesn't think you deserve a mother, Maria. That's why you don't have a mother. So you could imagine my thoughts about God. They were very twisted. I never thought that maybe God preserved my life at 2.5 years old for a reason. I didn't know that. Well, anyway, my father ended up showing up. I was 10 years old. Now, he did come a few times, but they would tell me, "Don't tell him because he doesn't want you." So when my father would pick me up and say, "How's everything, Maria?" I would say, "Fine, Daddy, just fine," because my father was so fragile. And somehow I grew up with the thought that I gave my mother a brain tumor because she died on my birthday. We never celebrated my birthday. My father cried for my mother. That's what he did all the days of his life. And he takes me home. I'm 10 years old because he discovered the abuse. He shows up. I have marks on my face and, chunks of hair pulled out of my head. And now I have a different battle to fight. Now it's an inner city school and it's co-ed. And I had never been around boys before. And because I'm a new girl, the boys like me. Because the boys like me, the girls hate me. And the girls would chase me home every day. And the girls were like Philistines. They were like the tallest girls you ever saw. And I would run home every day, and I would get in that apartment, and I'd be like, and my father would say, "How's everything, Maria?" And I'd say, "Fine, Daddy, just fine," until one day the Philistines caught me, and they ripped my blouse, and I held my blouse shut. But with my other hand, I had to fight back, and when I went to fight, my thumb snapped back, and it broke, and I couldn't go home and tell my father that my thumb was broken because he was too busy looking out the window crying for my mother. And to this day, look at it, it's a whole different size, and I say there are things in our life, they've never been set right. It's a certain movement, it's a certain smell, it's a certain block, it's a certain song, but I am here today because I truly believe that as you give God every issue, it's not overnight, but every issue, He makes every crooked bone straight in your life. He really does. Well, I get in this fight with the girls, and now I become like them. I become tough. I'm 10 years old. I'm going into liquor stores in Manhattan, and I'm buying cheap wine, and I'm lying unconscious in the street in what we call the meatpacking district, very chic. But in those days, that's really where they slaughtered the animals, and the blood of the animals would roll down the sidewalk, and I would be lying in that blood, unconscious, and no one ever told me that there was a God that loved me. I was always searching, I want to say, for that lipstick mark. I was always searching for that approval. And I started to smoke weed at 12, and then 13, 14, I'm doing ups, downs. And by the time I was 18, I was sticking a needle in my arm. I sent pictures of me on drugs. Our drug dealer found them years after I got saved, and I felt the Holy Spirit say, I've preserved these pictures because I want people to see what I can do in a life. I've overdosed on heroin 3 times. I've been hit by a car. I've been arrested. I tried to commit suicide. But obviously God had a plan, but I didn't know that.
Your story has gone down a journey that looks like, the dead end is death, or this is impossible. You began to date someone, and the two of you were druggies together.
Right.
You go to Mexico. Now, I want to know, why did you even go to Mexico? Was it more access to corruption or what?
No, it was a vacation. My father dies. He left me a lot of money. My husband came from a pretty not wealthy family. They worked hard. They owned a family pasta business, but they had money, and we decided to move in together. I have everything the world says I need in order to be happy. I have designer luggage, humongous diamond earrings, the man of my dreams, and we go on this vacation in Mexico. We had just moved in together. We had 2 mattresses and a telephone.
So you're not married, but you're
not married.
Together.
So we go on our way. I smuggle in about $3,000 worth of cocaine, and I get there, and I'm so empty. And I'm thinking that this man is going to fill the void in my life. First, I thought it was the designer luggage or, the partying or knowing famous people, but I was so empty. Anyway, we are in this vacation, and I'm emptier and emptier. If there was an echo inside of me screaming, help, it would have had a voice. And it's the 5th day to the 10-day vacation, and my boyfriend goes out for a walk on the beach, and I stay in the room, and I start to talk to God. But I don't talk to him the way we talk to him now. I start cursing him out and shaking my fist and saying, what kind of God are you? What is this thing called life? I feel like a dog chasing her tail. And in this room, this holy God that should have struck me dead said my name, the name that's not on my birth certificate. It wasn't external. It was internal. It was like mercury in a thermometer, and it filled me all the way up. And he said, Maria, give me your life before it's too late. And I knew that it was God. I felt this great sense of hope and worth. And in an instant, I never wanted to do the things I was doing. I didn't. My boyfriend came back in the room, and I said, Michael, when we go back home, will you go to church with me? I didn't even know there were other churches other than a Catholic church. And he said, church? He said, you need to smoke a joint. You need to get high. Anyways, 5 days to this 10-day vacation. It was the longest vacation of our lives. I didn't want to sleep with him anymore. I didn't want to do drugs anymore. I wanted to go and find the voice. And when we're leaving, they offer me a job, and I turned to him and I said, that's the devil. He doesn't want me to go home and go to church. Well, I get home and I call a friend of mine with the telephone that I had, and I dialed the phone. And I said, Barbara, I need God in my life. And Barbara said, praise the Lord. I said, praise the who? What does that mean? She said, Maria, while you were gone, we were gone 10 days. She said, some hippie preached the gospel to her and 30 of our friends. And she said, and after we accepted Christ, we joined hands and we said, Lord, save Michael and Maria in Mexico. That was the night that voice spoke to me in that hotel room. She took us to church that night. My boyfriend didn't want to go. But when that pastor said, in that little Pentecostal church, he said, if you were to die tonight, would you know where you would spend eternity? And I knew I wasn't going to the good place. And I don't know how I got to the front, but I felt like a million angels came and washed all this filth and rage off of me. And when I looked to my right, my boyfriend was kneeling next to me, sobbing, weeping. We accepted Christ. We went home that night. We separated the mattresses. We got married on a rainy Monday in City Hall. And when we were married 40 years in 2015, we got married in our church. Our 3 sons are pastors with our 8 grandchildren. We finally did it right.
That's awesome.
Betty, you know, everybody likes you to talk, and you just say such a
I'm just
awesome
sitting
listener.
here just thinking, your life, I mean, you started out with nothing. Nothing was going on. You got into the drugs, and then your dad passes away. He leaves you all this money. You meet the boyfriend. He has plenty of money. Then you have everything you want, but no happiness.
No happiness.
And then
empty.
It took God. It took Jesus to change your life. So you can have everything or nothing, but without Jesus,
It's the same.
no purpose. Yeah.
And now you've become a minister, and your husband, and you have joy unspeakable, full of glory. I want to turn our attention to those of you who are watching right now. And I want to talk to you, you know, like you always had wished a father would talk to you, and now you got one that does talk to you. And you know who your father is, and
Yes,
you know
I
you're
do.
loved. Let me just say this to you, that this story is his story, manifest in her life. A miracle to even be alive. The accuser started taking her down. All the things that she ever heard were the accuser, which is Satan, the deceiver, the destroyer, death, the murderer of every precious thing. And he dragged her around. Now think about this. Some of her friends met the Father through Jesus. And those friends, changed by the love of that Father, experienced personally, led them to pray together, and they prayed for her. Everybody watching us, Maria, needs to understand that prayer is not a last resort. It ought to be a first way.
Absolutely.
Because if you think for one moment, here's what you got to understand. When you look back through life, you can even look back over the past years. The positive things that happened, the greater security, no real war raging, except within our own streets, when we're out of control and rebellion or self-seeking and self-serving. But all the positive things that happen because of answered prayer. Mm-hmm. And answered prayer is what will shape things today. Your life appeared to be impossible. God answered prayer, and you became the miracle you and your husband result, and now all the people you've touched. You can go to the website. Tell us the website if they want to get the books that you've got.
It's on Amazon.
On Amazon?
Yes.
Let me just say to you, the very same Jesus that changed her life, she wasn't overlooked. She was loved, and she had to find that love. Would you receive that love right where you are, Father? I want to receive it. I want you to work a miracle in my life. I not only want to receive your love, I want to release it. And just tell him that. And you give him the clay, and he'll shape you into a vessel of great honor. You, the viewers, please listen to me. You are the most amazing people, and don't miss this. You're going to meet one of our friends that marched with us into the pit of hell, got hepatitis C holding little orphans in the broken down Soviet Union that had collapsed, taking precious children. She got a disease that nearly killed her. It has damaged her body, but Kyrie's never stopped.
Yes.
She keeps marching right back in the mission field. She and her husband just love people. I want you to listen to her. Here she just keeps going back to put God's arms around people. And she's got, 10 grandchildren?
I think so, 9 or 10.
10 grandchildren. And she's a precious, precious wife and mother. Listen to her. Here's what I want you to know. When you watch and hear what you're going to hear, you become the kind of miracle that Maria experienced. You're going to become the most powerful force of transforming love the world can see. You get to be the miracle expression of God's love. Listen to Kyrie.
This is my first experience in ever hearing real life stories from innocent children who have been sold into the sex traffic industry. This is really hard. It's very hard. Each of the girls that we visited with, they've all been tricked. Some by friends, some by complete strangers, and the most unthinkable, some by their own parents, their mothers and their fathers. They've all been sold by someone into the sex trafficking business. Their lives have been torn apart. Their lives have been crushed. They're abused. They're lied to. They're made to feel like their lives are worth nothing. Once they've been sold into that, they're locked away into little bitty rooms, sometimes for years. Someone's watching them all the time. They're beaten every day. They live in constant fear. They don't know anything other than the lifestyle that they've been entrapped in for years. And so they stay captive to the chains that were put on them in those locked rooms. So those remain on them, even though they may not have them physically on them, they're still chained to their past. And that's what we want to do. We want to break those chains from their past. We want to show them that they can walk out of bondage. It isn't easy, but it can be done. We want to extend hope to them, but we cannot do it alone. We need your help.
Kyrie and Jimmy have been as faithful as supporters of the outreaches of life as any we know. And Betty, when you see these precious children, and you heard Maria talk about her tragic situation, these children are taken captive and sold, and then they grow up in that bondage. And only love can set them free, but it does set them free. And our viewers are the ones that make that possible.
You really do. And I know Kyrie personally. It was not easy for her to go over there and to see and to interact with those precious young ladies, those children, their children, and to feel their heartache. So she brings that back to you, knowing that you're going to reach out and join with us and make a difference in the lives of these precious children. You're going to get them out of those situations. You're going to give them a safe place to go and to be nurtured and for their lives to be restored again. So join with us, won't you please?
What we are able to do is reach, rescue, and restore those who are caught in sexual trafficking. And they're prisoners. They're precious. They want to be free. The average cost to reach, rescue, and begin the restoration process for each one is $128. Now let me tell you what's happened. People like you, people like Jimmy and Kyrie, they said, we so believe in this, we will put up together, a group of us, matching funds, and they have put up $320,000 to match what you give. $128. Could you help rescue one? You say, yes, I can do that. Maybe a sacrifice, but I can do it. It'll be doubled immediately. So not one rescue, but two. Maybe you say, I couldn't do 128. Could you do 64? It'll then become 128. Many people say, I've been blessed. I could rescue 10 with a gift of $12.80. Well, now you'll be rescuing 20. Would you go get your bank card, go online or call that number, and say, here's the gift God's leading me to give. You're actually giving the greatest gift, life and the love of God. Would you please do it? If you make a check, make it out to life. call us and tell us you're mailing it. Please respond as God directs. Right now, would you please? You're going to give someone freedom. You're going to give them life.
Human trafficking is one of the world's darkest sources of criminal activity and money. As a result, children and young people are being abducted and sold at the hands of violent predators into a never-ending nightmare. Through Mission Rescue Life, you can reach out to warn children who are at the risk of being trafficked, rescue those already enslaved, and restore young lives, giving them a future. With a generous $320,000 matching gift, now your gift of $128 to help reach, rescue, or restore one child can be double to help 2 children. Your $64 gift will be matched to help save one child from the horrors of human trafficking. And a $32 Mission Rescue gift will be doubled to $64. With your gift today, we'll send you Natural Remedies. This beautifully illustrated and essential book explores ancient nutrition and the health benefits found in God's creation, a valuable reference with biblical insight to help you live your best life. With your gift of $128 or more, you'll receive the Jesus My Refuge journal and pen set, filled with scriptures reminding you of God's covering in times of need. You'll also be reminded to pray for those seeking refuge from the horrors of human trafficking. Finally, please consider a gift of $1,280, which will now help rescue 20 children, and you may request our inspiring bronze sculpture, Divine Servant. Please call, write, or make your gift online.
Betty, somehow I just feel like every person who can give will, and know that your gift is doubled. Natural Remedies, I'm telling you what, and Jordan Rubin and these others are a gift, and Betty, you and I both have been blessed by
We really have.
nature's God and Natural Remedies. And then this is a fabulous, and boy do we need Jesus as our refuge, a fabulous journal. Beautiful pen we send you. The Divine Servant Bronze is here for those of you who could put God's arms around 10 and rescue him, but it'll be now 20. Maria, we love you. We know that it moved from your head to your heart, and you've been spreading that. And I know you're going to continue, you and your husband. Just know we love you. Thank God for you. I hope you're glad you came and met
I'm so glad
the
I
guy
came.
you used to listen to preaching those crusades a lot.
This is such a treat. This is such an honor. You guys are the real deal. And I thank the Lord for everything you're doing.
Well, all of those beautiful viewers make it possible.
Yeah, they do.
We love you. Thanks for watching Life Today. And as I say so many times, thanks for sharing life today and every day. God bless you.
Pull yourself away from the devil. They ask for everything. Promise to set you free. You made a vow to your mother that you'd give your life to your father, the one who helped you see. Won't leave you recklessly. Come.
Tomorrow, health expert Jordan Rubin describes his journey to healing through natural remedies in God's creation and helps you find healing as well. Life Today is made possible by the supporters of Life Outreach International. Your gift will be used exclusively for the exempt purposes of life. The ministry features specific outreaches as examples of the programs it supports and conducts. Gifts are considered to be without restriction as to use unless explicitly stipulated by the donor. The ministry is a member of the ECFA.